Next, we'll hear from Mike Jorgensen with Carr Healthcare Realty. They're a first-time exhibitor here at Hinman.
Well, first of all, thank you guys so much for being out here. I know these vendors really have some amazing things. That bird eye, I came from marketing, and I know the importance of having reviews on Google, and some of these other presenters there's a lot of money to be had from this. So thank you guys for being here. This is usually the part of a presentation where the speaker tries to build trust and credibility, talks about their family, tells a cheesy joke, but I'm on a timeline, so I'm not really able to do that, which stinks, because I'm not above showing pictures of my kids to build trust and credibility. And my daughter is adorable. She's got the cheesiest little smile, and she's smart as a whip. She can stack blocks above her head. And my son, he's the most even-keeled, level-headed kid on the planet. And you're just not going to get to see it. I've got to jump right in because I'm on a timeline here. So I'm going to jump in and we'll talk about profitability in a practice, because that's obviously the bottom line is the most important thing for you as a practice. And so there are many things that affect a practice's bottom line. I don't have time to go through all of these, but you know these: who you bank with, what your loan terms are, your location. Obviously, there are taxes involved with where you're located and what insurance providers you take, your marketing. Any one of these is important, and every one of these can make a huge impact on your practice. So if they're all a little bit off, the big question is, where do we start? There's one thing that I'd like to touch on that I don't think a lot of doctors think about in terms of profitability, and that is the real estate. So the real estate, whether it's a lease or a note on the building that you own, is oftentimes the highest negotiable in a practice. Meaning, you've got staff. If you're crunched on and you need to find some more profitability, you can't go to Nancy and say, "Hey, we're really tight here, so I'm going to have to cut your salary 20%. She's going to leave. She's going to go find somewhere that will pay her what she's worth. So pay them what they're worth, or they'll find someone who will. But the next highest expense is real estate, which everything is negotiable. And there are a lot of things in a lease or a purchase that can make an effect on the profitability. So in a lease, there are hundreds of thousands of dollars that can be had in any term. And a lot of things like tenant improvements or free rent, those are, in commercial real estate, very common in any transaction. But most doctors don't realize that these can be had in a transaction. So, and even in a purchase, if you pay $1 per square foot too much on a 1 acre parcel, that's a $50,000 mistake. So there are hundreds of thousands of dollars to be had in real estate. Knowing the potential pitfalls in real estate is very important. So today I just want to go over 3. There are dozens of things that are misconceptions in real estate, but I'll hit 3 of them today, and hopefully you guys can come to the booth and we can talk about a couple others. So the first one is fair market value. A lot of doctors think fair market rent is based on what others pay in rent, which to an extent is true. A lot of real estate agents, when somebody says, "What's fair market for my practice?" they'll look at comps. So if you're in a retail space that's 2,500 square feet, they're going to go on our listing websites and find every 2,500 square foot retail space within 3, 5, 7 miles and average them out, and that is quote-unquote fair market. The problem with that is that a dentist is a better tenant, or the best tenant that a landlord can have. So you're comparing yourself to State Farm or Papa John's or any of these other tenants, and you are the best. So if you are the best tenant, you should get the best deal. A dental success rate, the success rate of a dental practice is 99%. That's why banks are clamoring to get your business, because they know you're the best loan. A lot of landlords say, "Mike, I really want a restaurant. I want something that's going to drive a lot of traffic." Well, the thing about a restaurant is that it has a 60% success rate. So usually when I talk to landlords who tell me that, I say, "Listen, let's say you need a procedure and your livelihood is on the line. There's a doctor that can do the procedure that has a 99% success rate. Or there's one that's cheaper that has a 60% success rate. Are you going to pay for the better doctor?" Of course you are. It makes sense. Your livelihood is on the line. And these landlords make money in real estate. So this is their livelihood. So when we have that conversation with them, it increases the ability to get a good deal in your real estate. So how does landlord view fair market value? It's one of the most common questions I get, and probably the most tweetable thing I'll say all day. So if you guys are live tweeting this, don't miss it. A landlord bases fair market value as the greatest amount they can get for their space. So if they've got an 8-space building and 7 tenants are paying $25 a square foot, and you come unrepresented and pay $30 is the new fair market value. So landlords are, and we can't blame them for it. A landlord isn't a bad guy because he's trying to get more for his rent or more for his investment. I'll give you an example of you selling your home. You've got a house that's on the market. The comparable properties in the area, same finishes, same size, same layout, are going for $400,000. And you put it on the market, and before you put a price on it, somebody calls and says, I'll pay you $500,000 for your house. Are you going to take it? Of course you are. You're going to run to the bank, make sure that check clears. You're going to tell everybody else, and you're not a bad person for it, but you're not going to say, no, it's really only worth $400,000. You're going to take that $500,000. That's the exact same with the landlord. They're not bad people. This is how they make money, but they're trying to get the most that they can for their investment. The second pitfall that a lot of doctors fall for is that the best deal is the one that has the lowest monthly rent. So obviously, location is important. If you go into, I can find anybody here a space for $6 per square foot, which is a very low rent. And the issue is going to be, though, you're going to have to put a lot into the build out. It's probably not in a great location. So what we try to flip the table and say, listen, if this area can generate twice as much revenue, is it worth 25% more, 30% more to make that difference? And so there are a lot of things that go into this, but the cheapest rent isn't always the best. The other thing is lower rent versus concessions. So if you can get rent down by giving up all other concessions, it doesn't always make sense. So there's something called tenant improvements. These are monies paid by the landlord to invest into their property that a lot of doctors don't even realize is there. So we just did a deal in Montgomery, and the doctor got $140,000 from the landlord to build that property. Not only did he save that $140,000, but he also saved the interest from the loan on that. So he might have paid a little bit more to get that, but the landlord is not doing a dollar for dollar. They're investing into their space, and it can make a huge impact on what you pay or what your profitability is on your practice. There are other things like free rent. We've seen up to 2 or 3 years of free rent on a deal if a landlord is strapped for cash, but we do a good job selling the property. They'll give free rent for a longer portion to earn your business. Escalations, those are, most leases have, I think market is 3% escalations per year. I've seen 4%, so if we can get that down to 2%, or, there are many things that go into this, and then a purchase option. Obviously, if you move out of a space that you rented, it's a sunk cost of what you invested into it. So if you can purchase it later on down the road, when you have more ability to do so, it can make a huge impact. You're not having to build out a new space and leave one behind for competition to come into. The third common pitfall that a lot of doctors believe is hiring an agent to represent me is going to cost an arm and a leg. If anybody's ever bought or sold a house, you know when you buy a house, you don't pay your representation. The seller pays that. It's the exact same in commercial real estate. So the seller or the landlord is always in charge of the fees that are for the brokerage. So your representation is free. You as the buyer or the tenant have free representation. Now, if you get an investment property and are leasing it out to somebody else, obviously that's on you. But as a buyer or tenant, your representation is free. So not only does it not cost you, but it likely won't save you. Now, maybe you can go to the landlord and say, hey, can you cut 3% off the deal? I'm coming unrepresented. He's going to say yes, because that's great for a landlord, when oftentimes there are 15 to 20% of concessions that would have otherwise given to get this property. So on top of that, though, they'll give you that 3% difference, but they're still going to pay 6%. So the landlord has a predetermined fee that they're going to pay their representation. And if they cut 3% off, they're still going to pay the representation 6%. They're just going to have a lot lower concession than they would have had otherwise. So, and the other thing is that most landlords are paying for representation. So they have done thousands of transactions, and they're still hiring somebody where you as a dentist have maybe done 2 to 4, and you're coming 80% of the time coming in unrepresented. So that's a major disconnect in real estate. And you guys have a lot of opportunity to make a difference on your profitability via real estate. So, cheesiest line you'll hear all day, teamwork makes the dream work. You guys are, I would suggest hiring people around you that are strong where you are not, and things you don't understand, get somebody who does. Don't do your own legal review, don't do your own taxes. Hire somebody to do so who is an expert. And so come see us at booth 1940. We've got people all around the Southeast. We can do deals anywhere. So if you need help, please come see us. Or if you've got questions, I know there are a lot of weird situations, and we can't really take questions here because they're just so in-depth. So come see us. We've got a couple people in the back here, Bavika and Janet. They're 2 of our reps. So thank you guys for your time. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you at booth 1940.